Hey son, picture a strip mall in 1995. The smell of baking bread drifts through the parking lot, mixing with car exhaust and summer heat. Inside, a teenager in a green visor slides your sandwich down a glass counter, and you watch every ingredient go on. Fresh, you think? Simple. Honest. Tonight, we're talking about something that went from American dream to American nightmare faster than you can say $5 footlong. This is the story of how Subway became the biggest restaurant chain on earth and somehow, quietly, became the worst franchise you could possibly own. And trust me, the truth is stranger and sadder than you'd expect. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these deep dives into the things we remember, I'd really appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. No pressure, just if it feels right. And hey, we're now on Spotify too, so if you'd rather listen there, the link is in the description. Either way, I'm glad you're here. So let's set the scene with a few questions. What did it feel like to believe a sandwich shop was actually healthy? When did Eat Fresh stop meaning anything at all? How does a company open more locations than McDonald's and still manage to make almost nobody rich? What happens when the promise of owning your own business turns into a legal nightmare, a financial trap, and a scandal that somehow stayed hidden in plain sight for decades? It is 1965 now. Fred DeLuca is 17 years old, standing in a garage in Bridgeport, Connecticut. A family friend hands him $1,000 and an idea. The sandwich shop does not have a name yet. The recipe for disaster has not been written. But it is coming, and it is going to spread to every corner of America. Let's start at the beginning, back when Subway was not called Subway at all. It is 1965. Fred DeLuca is 17 years old, fresh out of high school, trying to figure out how to pay for college. He has no business experience, no culinary training, no clear plan. What he does have is a family friend named Peter Buck, a nuclear physicist with $1,000 and a hunch that sandwiches might be a decent business. They shake hands. They open a shop in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They call it Pete's Super Submarines. The sandwiches are fine. The name is forgettable. The location is terrible. Within a year, they are hemorrhaging money. But Fred DeLuca does not quit. He opens a second location, then a third. By 1968, they have 16 shops and a new name, Subway. The idea is simple. Cheap rent, simple menu, fast turnover. No grills, no fryers, just cold cuts and bread. It works, sort of. What nobody realizes yet is that the real product is not the sandwich. It is the franchise itself. Picture Fred standing behind that first counter in Bridgeport. He is a kid, really. Skinny, nervous, trying to look confident while slicing tomatoes and wrapping sandwiches in paper. The shop is tiny, maybe 800 square feet. The equipment is second-hand. The floor is cracked linoleum. Outside, cars rumble past on the street, most of them not stopping. Inside, the radio plays top 40 hits, and the smell of onions hangs in the air. This is not glamorous. This is not the American dream as advertised. This is survival. Peter Buck is older, calmer, a scientist who approaches the sandwich business like an experiment. He watches the numbers. He tracks the costs. He notices that even when they are busy, they are barely breaking even. The problem is overhead. Rent, labor, spoilage, utilities. The margins are thin, thinner than either of them expected. And Bridgeport in 1965 is not exactly a booming market. The economy is shifting. The suburbs are growing. Downtown is emptying out. They are selling sandwiches in a neighborhood that is slowly dying. So they try again. A second location in a better spot. Then a third. The logic is simple. If one store is not profitable, maybe 3 stores together can create enough volume to matter. Maybe they can negotiate better prices on supplies. Maybe they can build a name people recognize. It is a gamble, and for a while, it does not pay off. The stores limp along. Some days are good. Most are not. Fred works 16-hour days. He is running between locations, making sandwiches, handling deliveries, cleaning bathrooms, doing everything because they cannot afford to hire help. By 1968, something shifts. The name changes to Subway. Shorter, simpler, easier to remember. The concept tightens. No hot food, no complicated menu. Just submarines, made fast, made cheap, made consistent. And it starts to work. Not spectacularly. Not enough to make anyone rich. But enough to keep going. Enough to open a few more stores. Enough to start thinking bigger. What Fred DeLuca understands, even at 20 years old, is that the sandwich is not the point. The point is the system. The replicable, scalable, foolproof system. A store that can be opened anywhere, run by anyone, with minimal training and minimal cost. A store that does not require a chef or a liquor license or expensive equipment. A store that can be copied 100 times, 1,000 times, without losing its identity. That is the vision. That is the product. And over the next 50 years, that vision will make billions of dollars and destroy thousands of lives. But in 1968, standing in a small sandwich shop in Connecticut, Fred DeLuca is just a kid with a dream and a system that is starting to work. Now we need to talk about what a franchise actually is, because this is where the story gets interesting. It is the early 1970s. Subway is still small, still regional, still trying to figure out how to grow without going broke. Fred DeLuca looks at McDonald's, at Burger King, at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he sees a pattern. They do not own most of their restaurants. Other people do. Franchisees. People who pay for the right to use the name, the recipes, the systems. They take the risk. The parent company takes the fees. It is brilliant, really. And DeLuca decides Subway will do the same thing, only cheaper. The franchise fee is low. The startup costs are low. You do not need a big kitchen or expensive equipment. Just a small space, a sandwich line, and a dream. For people who could never afford a McDonald's franchise, Subway looks like a golden ticket. A chance to own something. To be your own boss. To build generational wealth. And for a while, in certain places, at certain times, it actually works. But the model has a crack in it from the start, and that crack is about to become a canyon. The franchise model in America is built on a simple promise. You give me money, I give you a proven system. You follow the system, you make money. We both win. It sounds fair. It sounds like partnership. But the reality is more complicated. The franchisor controls everything. The name, the menu, the suppliers, the marketing. The franchisee gets to own the risk and do the work. And if anything goes wrong, the franchisee eats the loss. The franchisor keeps collecting fees. Fred DeLuca sees this and makes a calculation. If he can make the entry cost low enough, he can attract people who would never otherwise own a business. Immigrants, working-class families, retirees, people with some savings but no experience, people who are hungry for opportunity and willing to work hard. The Subway pitch is perfect for them. No cooking, no grease, no complicated systems. Just assemble sandwiches, serve customers, follow the manual. Anyone can do it. The initial franchise fee in the early 1970s is around $5,000. That is low. A McDonald's franchise costs hundreds of thousands. Burger King is similar. Subway is accessible, attainable, and the startup costs are manageable. You can open a Subway in a strip mall for under $50,000 if you are careful. You do not need a big space. You do not need expensive equipment. You need a counter, a cooler, some bread pans, and a cash register. That is it. The training is minimal. A week, maybe 2. You learn how to slice meat, how to portion vegetables, how to handle cash, how to open and close the store. Subway corporate provides a manual, hundreds of pages, rules for everything. How to make the bread, how to arrange the toppings, how to greet customers, how to clean the bathrooms. Follow the manual, they say, and you will succeed. And for some people, it works. In the 1970s and early 1980s, before the market is saturated, before the competition gets brutal, some franchisees do well. They work hard. They build a customer base. They run a tight operation. They make enough money to support their families, maybe even open a second location. These are the success stories Subway will use in their marketing for the next 40 years. Real people, real businesses, real dreams come true. But even in the early days, there are warning signs. The profit margins are tight. The franchisee has to buy everything from approved suppliers, and those suppliers are not cheap. The royalty fees eat into revenue, and Subway corporate has the right to open new locations wherever they want, even if it cannibalizes existing stores. That detail is buried in the contract. Most people do not notice it, or they notice and assume it will not happen to them. Or they are so desperate for the opportunity that they sign anyway, hoping for the best. The franchise model promises freedom, but what it delivers is a different kind of trap. You are your own boss, technically, but you cannot make your own decisions. You own your business, technically, but you do not control it. You took the risk. You did the work. You invested your savings, and someone else gets to decide whether you succeed or fail. That is the crack in the foundation, and it is about to split wide open. It is the 1980s now, and Subway needs an identity. The sandwiches are fine, but nobody is passionate about them. The shops are clean, but not memorable. Fred DeLuca knows he needs something simple, something that sticks. And so, the slogan appears, "Eat fresh." 2 words, no explanation. It sounds healthy. It sounds honest. It sounds like the opposite of McDonald's, of Burger King, of all that deep-fried, mass-produced, frozen fast food filling up America's highways. Eat fresh suggests something made in front of you, something close to real food, something your mother might approve of. And it works. People start to believe it. The bread is baked in the store. You can see your sandwich being made. There are vegetables. It feels virtuous. But here is the thing nobody says out loud. Fresh is not a regulated term. It does not mean anything legally. The bread is frozen dough, thawed and baked. The meat is processed and pre-sliced. The vegetables are shipped in plastic bags. None of that matters, though, because the feeling of fresh is what sells. And Subway becomes very, very good at selling that feeling, even when the reality behind the counter tells a different story. Walk into a Subway in 1987. The smell hits you first. Bread baking. It is warm, yeasty, comforting. It smells like a bakery, like home, like something made with care. That smell is not an accident. Subway knows it is their strongest marketing tool. The bread is baked throughout the day, timed, so there is always a fresh batch coming out of the oven when foot traffic is highest. The smell drifts into the parking lot, into the neighboring stores, pulling people in. You step up to the counter and the setup reinforces the message. The ingredients are right there in front of you, visible, colorful, arranged in neat rows. Lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pickles, peppers. It looks like a salad bar. It looks healthy. The sandwich artist, that is what Subway calls them, asks what you want. You point. They assemble it in front of you. You watch every step. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is microwaved or deep-fried out of sight. It is transparent. It is participatory. It feels honest. And the messaging reinforces it. Eat fresh. The slogan is everywhere. On the signs, on the napkins, on the commercials. It is aspirational. It is a promise. It is a reaction to everything people hate about fast food. the grease, the mystery meat, the processed garbage that comes wrapped in foil and tastes like chemicals. Subway is positioning itself as the alternative, the healthier choice, the smarter choice. And in the 1980s, when people are just starting to think about nutrition, about fat content, about what they are putting in their bodies, that positioning is brilliant. But here is what fresh actually means at Subway. The bread arrives frozen. Sticks of dough in plastic bags, shipped from a central supplier, stored in a freezer. Every morning, the franchisee or an employee pulls out the dough, lets it thaw, lets it rise, then bakes it. It smells great. It tastes fine. But it is not fresh. It is frozen dough, thawed and heated. The same process happens at every grocery store bakery in America. Nobody calls that fresh. But Subway does. The meat is pre-sliced, pre-packaged, shipped in vacuum-sealed bags. It sits in the cooler for days, sometimes weeks. The vegetables are pre-cut, pre-washed, shipped in plastic bags from industrial farms. The cheese is processed. The sauces are squeezed from bottles filled with preservatives and stabilizers. None of it is fresh in any meaningful sense. It is all designed for shelf life, for consistency, for cost control. Fresh would be expensive. Fresh would spoil. Fresh would require skilled labor and constant restocking. Subway cannot afford fresh. So they sell the idea of fresh instead. And it works because people want to believe it. In the 1980s, fast food is under attack. Documentaries and news reports are exposing the truth about what goes into burgers and fries. Parents are worried. Eaters are looking for alternatives. And Subway gives them a story they can tell themselves. I am being good. I am eating fresh. I am making a healthier choice. The sandwich might have 1,000 calories once you add the mayo and cheese and oil, but it has lettuce on it, so it feels virtuous. The slogan becomes so successful that Subway builds the entire brand around it. Every commercial, every billboard, every piece of marketing, eat fresh. It is vague enough to mean anything and specific enough to feel like a promise. And for decades, nobody challenges it. Nobody asks what fresh actually means. Nobody demands proof, because the feeling is enough. And Subway understands that feelings, not facts, are what sell sandwiches. By the 1990s, Subway has cracked the code. The franchise fee drops to practically nothing. In some cases, it is as low as $2. Not $2,000. $2. The idea is volume. Flood the market. Get a Subway in every strip mall, every gas station, every corner where rent is cheap and foot traffic exists. It works beyond anyone's wildest projections. Subway starts opening thousands of locations a year. More than McDonald's. More than anyone. By 2011, Subway has more locations than any restaurant chain in the world. Over 33,000 in the United States alone. Franchisees sign up in waves. Immigrants, retirees, young couples, people betting their savings on a green and yellow sign. The pitch is irresistible. Low cost, low risk, high reward. Except the risk is not low. It is hidden. Most franchisees do not read the fine print. They do not realize how much control they are giving up, how little support they will actually receive, how brutal the profit margins really are. They just see the number of locations and assume success is inevitable. By the time they figure out the truth, they are locked into contracts that are almost impossible to escape. The $2 franchise fee is a masterstroke of predatory marketing. It sounds too good to be true, because it is. The fee itself is meaningless. It is a symbolic gesture, a headline, a hook. What it does is get people in the door. It gets them to the meeting, to the pitch, to the contract signing. And by the time they realize what they have actually agreed to, it is too late. Here is how it works. You see an ad. Subway franchises available. Low startup cost. proven system, unlimited potential. You call the number. A friendly voice asks about your background, your finances, your goals. They are not vetting you. They are qualifying you. Do you have $50,000? Do you have access to credit? Can you work full-time? If the answers are yes, you are in. They send you a packet. Glossy brochures. Photos of successful franchisees standing in front of their stores, arms crossed, smiling. Testimonials, revenue projections, charts showing Subway's growth over the past decade. It all looks legitimate. It all looks safe. And then there is the number. $2. The franchise fee is $2. You read it twice. You think it is a typo. It is not. You go to the meeting. The Subway representative is polished, professional, enthusiastic. They walk you through the opportunity. 30,000 locations worldwide. The biggest restaurant chain on the planet. A brand everyone knows. A system that works. And the best part, they say, is that it is affordable. No huge upfront investment. No massive risk. Just a small fee, some startup costs, and you are in business. They do not dwell on the details. The royalty fees, the advertising fees, the mandatory equipment purchases, the required renovations, the approved supplier lists, the territory restrictions, or lack thereof. All of that is in the contract, which is 100 pages of legal language that nobody reads and nobody explains. You sign because you trust the brand, because you believe in the opportunity, because you are desperate for something that feels like control over your own life. And Subway opens thousands of stores this way. The growth is exponential. In the early 1990s, Subway has around 5,000 locations. By 2000, they have 15,000. By 2010, they have over 30,000. They are opening a new store somewhere in the world every day. Multiple stores every day. The green and yellow signs are everywhere. Every strip mall, every small town, every airport and gas station and college campus. Subway becomes inescapable. But the growth is not organic. It is not driven by demand. It is driven by franchise sales. Subway corporate makes money every time a new store opens, regardless of whether that store succeeds. Franchise fees, equipment sales, supplier kickbacks, the revenue is front-loaded, and so the incentive is to open as many stores as possible, as fast as possible, without regard for saturation or cannibalization or long-term viability. The franchisees figure this out slowly. At first, business is okay. They work hard. They build a customer base. They start to see a rhythm. And then Subway sells another franchise 2 blocks away, or across the street, or in the same plaza. Sales drop. Profits evaporate. The franchisee calls corporate, confused, angry, desperate. Corporate shrugs. The contract gives us the right to open stores wherever we want. You agreed to this, and technically they are right. It is in the contract, buried on page 73. In language designed to obscure rather than clarify. This is not a mistake. This is not an oversight. This is the business model. Subway does not make money by selling sandwiches. Subway makes money by selling franchises. The more stores they open, the more fees they collect. The success or failure of any individual store is irrelevant. The system is designed to extract value from franchisees and move on to the next one. And in the 1990s, with a $2 franchise fee and a promise of freedom, there is always a next one. Here is where things start to turn dark. It is the late 1990s, early 2000s. Subway is growing so fast that new stores are opening within blocks of existing ones. Sometimes across the street. This is not an accident. This is strategy. Subway corporate makes money every time a new franchise opens, regardless of whether it succeeds. Franchise fees, equipment sales, food supplier kickbacks. The more stores, the more revenue. But the franchisees are the ones who suffer. Imagine this. You open a Subway in a strip mall. You work 70 hours a week. You start to build a customer base. Then Subway sells a franchise to someone else 2 blocks away. Your sales drop by 30% overnight. You complain to corporate. They shrug. The contract says they can open new locations wherever they want. You have no protection, no territory rights, no recourse. This happens over and over again. Franchisees call it cannibalization. Subway calls it market saturation. Either way, it destroys livelihoods, bankrupts families, and turns the dream of business ownership into a nightmare. And yet, Subway keeps opening more stores. You are a franchisee in Phoenix. It is 2003. You opened your Subway 2 years ago. The first year was brutal. Long hours, thin margins, constant stress. But you survived. The second year was better. You started recognizing regulars. You learned the rhythms of lunch rush and afternoon lull. You hired a part-time employee so you could take Sundays off. You started to believe this might actually work. Then you get a call from another franchisee across town. He tells you Subway just approved a new location 4 blocks from your store. You laugh. That cannot be right. You are barely making it work as is. There is not enough business in this area for 2 Subways. He tells you to check with corporate. You do. They confirm it. A new franchise has been sold. The store will open in 3 months. You ask about territory protection. They tell you there is none. You pull out your contract and read it for the first time, really read it, and you find the clause. Subway reserves the right to open additional locations at its discretion. No minimum distance, no sales threshold, no protection. The new store opens. It is newer, cleaner, better located. Your sales drop immediately. Not a little, a lot. 30–40%. You cut costs, you let your employee go. You stop taking Sundays off. You start working open to close, 7 days a week. It is not enough. The numbers do not work anymore. You are losing money every month. You drain your savings. You max out credit cards. You take out a second mortgage on your house. You call corporate again. You beg them to close the other store, or to buy you out, or to do something. They listen politely and do nothing. The contract is clear. You have no recourse. And besides, they say, market saturation is a sign of a healthy brand. It increases visibility. It drives competition. It is good for everyone, except it is not good for you. It is killing you. This is not unique to Phoenix. It is happening everywhere. In Los Angeles, there are stories of 3 Subways within a single mile. In New York, franchisees watched new stores open across the street, literally across the street, stealing half their customers. In small towns, Subway opens a second location, even though the first one is barely surviving. The logic is insane unless you understand the incentive structure. Subway corporate does not care if individual stores fail. They care about total store count. More stores means more fees. More fees means more revenue. The franchisees are disposable. Some franchisees try to fight back. They organize. They hire lawyers. They file complaints. They threaten to sue. Subway's legal team crushes them. The contracts are airtight. The arbitration clauses prevent class action lawsuits. The non-disparagement agreements prevent public criticism. Franchisees who speak out lose their franchises. Franchisees who stay quiet lose their money. It is a perfect trap, and the human cost is staggering. Franchisees work themselves into the ground. Marriages fall apart. Health declines. Bankruptcies pile up. Some people lose everything. Their savings, their homes, their futures. And Subway just keeps opening more stores, selling more franchises, collecting more fees. The machine does not care who it crushes. The machine just keeps running. There is a term for this in the franchise industry: encroachment. It means opening a new location so close to an existing one that it harms the existing franchisee's business. It is legal, it is common, and it is devastating. Subway is not the only chain that does it, but Subway does it more aggressively than almost anyone, because the entire business model depends on growth. And growth in Subway's world does not mean more customers. It means more stores, even if those stores fail, even if the franchisees suffer, even if the whole system is built on a foundation of broken dreams and empty promises. It is 1998. A college student named Jared Fogle loses 245 pounds, eating nothing but Subway sandwiches. His story goes viral. Subway hires him. He becomes the face of the brand. For 15 years, Jared is everywhere. Commercials, billboards, magazine covers. He is living proof that Subway is healthy, that fast food does not have to make you fat, that you can eat fresh and transform your life. Parents feel good about taking their kids to Subway. Dieters order 6-inch turkey subs and feel virtuous. Jared becomes one of the most recognizable spokespeople in advertising history. But the whole thing is built on sand. The sandwiches are not actually that healthy, especially once you add mayo, cheese, and processed meat. And Jared himself, well, in 2015 the truth comes out. He is arrested on charges involving minors. The details are horrific. Subway cuts ties immediately. The commercials disappear. But the damage is done. Not just to Subway's reputation, but to the illusion they had spent decades building. The health halo shatters, and people start asking questions they should have asked years earlier. Jared Fogle is not a marketing invention. He is a real person with a real story. In 1998, he is a student at Indiana University, weighing over 400 pounds, struggling with his health and his future. He starts eating Subway twice a day, a 6-inch turkey sub for lunch, a foot-long veggie sub for dinner. No cheese, no mayo, lots of vegetables. He walks everywhere. The weight starts to fall off. By the end of the year, he has lost nearly 250 pounds. He looks like a different person. He feels like a different person. A friend writes about Jared's transformation in the college newspaper. The story gets picked up. A local Subway franchisee sees it and contacts Subway corporate. They are skeptical at first, too good to be true, but they send someone to verify. Jared is real. The weight loss is real, and Subway realizes they have stumbled onto something powerful. A story, a narrative, a human face for their brand. They hire Jared in 2000. The first commercial airs during the Super Bowl. Jared stands there holding a pair of his old jeans, enormous, cartoonish. He talks about his transformation. He credits Subway. The commercial is simple, earnest, effective. People believe him because he is not an actor. He is not a model. He is a regular guy who did something extraordinary, and Subway was part of it. The campaign explodes. Jared becomes a celebrity. He travels the country, visiting schools, talking to kids about health and nutrition. He does hundreds of commercials. He becomes so associated with Subway that people forget his last name. He is just Jared, the Subway guy. And the message is clear. You can eat fast food and lose weight. You can be healthy and convenient at the same time. Subway is not like the other chains. Subway is different, except Subway is not different. The sandwiches Jared ate, the plain turkey and veggie subs with no cheese and no sauce, are not what most people order. Most people get the Italian BMT with extra cheese and mayo and oil. Most people get the meatball marinara or the chicken bacon ranch. And those sandwiches are not healthy. They are loaded with sodium, saturated fat, processed meat, refined carbs. A foot-long meatball sub has more calories than a Big Mac and fries. But nobody talks about that because Jared is on TV holding up his old jeans and everyone assumes Subway is the healthy choice. The health halo's worth billions. It allows Subway to compete with fast casual chains. It allows them to charge slightly higher prices. It allows parents to feel good about feeding their kids fast food. And Jared is the centerpiece of that halo. He is proof. He is validation. He is the story that makes the whole thing believable. But the story has cracks. Nutritionists point out that Jared's success was about calorie restriction and exercise, not about Subway specifically. You could lose weight eating McDonald's twice a day if you controlled portions and walked everywhere. Subway is not magic. And the sandwiches most people order are not the sandwiches Jared ate. But those critiques do not get much traction. The narrative is too powerful. The marketing is too good. And Jared keeps showing up on TV, smiling, holding his jeans, telling his story. Then 2015 happens. Jared is arrested. The charges are horrific. Exploitation of minors. Distribution of explicit material. The details are worse than anyone imagined. Subway cuts ties within hours. The commercials are pulled. The website is scrubbed. Jared's name is erased from everything. But the damage is irreversible. The health halo does not just crack. It shatters. People feel betrayed, disgusted, angry. And they start asking questions. If Jared was a lie, what else is Subway lying about? If the spokesperson was a monster, what does that say about the brand? If the health claims were always exaggerated, why did we believe them for so long? Subway tries to move on. New campaigns, new spokespeople, new messaging. But it does not work. The association is too strong. The betrayal is too deep. And the truth is finally visible. Subway was never about health. It was about the illusion of health, and Jared was the person selling that illusion until he could not anymore. By the mid-2000s, anger is building. Franchisees are organizing. They are sharing stories. They are realizing they have been sold a lie. Online forums fill with complaints. Lawsuits start appearing. The accusations are damning. Subway corporate is accused of forcing franchisees to buy overpriced supplies from approved vendors that kick money back to corporate. They are accused of misleading people about profit potential, about costs, about support. They are accused of opening too many stores too close together, prioritizing corporate revenue over franchisee success. Some franchisees are barely breaking even. Others are losing money every month. A few go bankrupt. The contracts make it almost impossible to sell, almost impossible to close, almost impossible to fight back. And Subway's legal team is relentless. They crush dissent. They threaten franchise agreements. They make examples out of anyone who speaks too loudly. But the anger does not go away. It simmers. It spreads. And it waits for the right moment to boil over. The internet changes everything. Before online forums, franchisees are isolated. They think their problems are unique. They blame themselves. They assume they did something wrong. They suffer in silence because they are ashamed and because the contracts have non-disparagement clauses that prevent public criticism. But then the forums appear. SubwayFranchisee.com, Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and franchisees start talking. At first, it is venting. Complaints about royalty fees. Complaints about equipment costs. Complaints about the approved supplier lists. But then patterns emerge. The same complaints from different people, in different cities, in different states. Everyone is struggling with the same problems. The margins are impossibly thin. The supplier prices are inflated. The new stores are cannibalizing existing ones. The support from corporate is non-existent. And the contracts are designed to trap, not protect. One franchisee posts detailed financial records: revenue, expenses, profit. The numbers are shocking. This person worked 80 hours a week for a year and made less than minimum wage. Another franchisee shares emails from corporate refusing to help when a new Subway opened across the street. Another posts photos of spoiled vegetables from the approved supplier, vegetables they were forced to buy at inflated prices. The stories pile up, hundreds of them, thousands, and a picture emerges of a system that is fundamentally broken and fundamentally exploitative. The lawsuits begin. Small ones at first. Individual franchisees suing over specific issues. Breach of contract, fraud, misrepresentation. Most of them lose. Subway's legal team is massive and experienced. The contracts are airtight. The arbitration clauses prevent jury trials. The legal system is designed to favor corporations over individuals, and Subway uses every tool at their disposal. They drag cases out. They bury plaintiffs in paperwork. They threaten to revoke franchises if the lawsuits continue. Most franchisees cannot afford to fight. They settle quietly or drop the case. But a few fight back. A group of franchisees in California organizes a class action lawsuit alleging that Subway misrepresented profit potential in their franchise disclosure documents. They claim Subway showed inflated revenue projections and hid the true costs. They claim Subway deliberately opened too many stores to generate fees, knowing it would harm existing franchisees. They claim the whole system is a fraud designed to enrich corporate at the expense of the people doing the actual work. Subway fights the lawsuit aggressively. They argue that the franchise disclosure documents are accurate. They argue that franchisees are independent business owners responsible for their own success or failure. They argue that any struggles are due to poor management, not corporate malfeasance. And they win. The case is dismissed. The arbitration clauses hold. The franchisees are ordered to pay Subway's legal fees. But the fight does not stop. More lawsuits appear. More franchisees speak out. Trade publications start covering the story. Journalists start investigating, and slowly the truth starts to surface. Subway is not the friendly neighborhood sandwich shop. Subway is a machine designed to extract maximum profit from the people at the bottom. The franchisees are not partners. They are revenue streams. And when they stop being profitable, they are discarded. The anger spreads beyond the forums. Franchisees start organizing in person. Meetings in hotel conference rooms, shared lawyers, coordinated strategies. Some franchisees stop paying royalties in protest. Others publicly criticize Subway, willing to risk their franchises to tell their stories. A few close their stores and walk away, abandoning their investments because the alternative is worse. Subway's response is predictable: silence, legal threats, termination of franchise agreements for anyone who steps too far out of line. They do not address the complaints. They do not reform the system. They do not acknowledge the harm. They just tighten the screws and hope the anger burns itself out. But it does not. The revolt is just beginning. It is 2008. The economy is collapsing. People are losing their jobs, their homes, their savings. And Subway launches a promotion that will define the brand for the next decade: the $5 footlong. Any footlong sandwich, $5. The jingle is catchy. The deal is irresistible. Sales explode. Lines wrap around buildings. Subway looks like a genius. But for franchisees, the promotion is a disaster. The profit margin on a $5 footlong is razor thin. In some cases, they are losing money on every sandwich. They beg corporate to end the promotion. Corporate refuses. The $5 footlong is too successful, too iconic, too tied to the brand. It becomes permanent. Franchisees are trapped. They cannot raise prices without losing customers. They cannot lower costs without sacrificing quality. They are stuck in a race to the bottom, selling sandwiches at a loss just to keep the lights on. Some start cutting corners. Smaller portions. Cheaper ingredients. The quality slides. Customers notice. But by then, the damage is done. The $5 footlong has turned Subway into a discount brand, and there is no going back. The $5 footlong is born out of desperation. It is 2007, and the housing market is collapsing. Bear Stearns fails. Lehman Brothers fails. The stock market crashes. Unemployment spikes. Consumer spending freezes. Restaurants are hit hard. People stop eating out. They pack lunches. They cook at home. They cut every expense they can. Fast food chains are bleeding customers. Subway needs a response. Something bold. Something that cuts through the noise. A franchisee in Miami comes up with the idea. A local promotion. $5 footlongs for a limited time. It works. Sales spike. Lines form. People who have not been to Subway in months are suddenly coming back. The franchisee reports the results to corporate. Subway sees the potential and decides to roll it out nationally. The commercial is simple. Catchy jingle. People holding up 5 fingers and a footlong. $5. $5. $5 footlong. It is annoying and impossible to forget. The promotion launches in 2008, right as the recession deepens. And it is a phenomenon. Subway sales jump 15%. Customer traffic doubles at some locations. The media covers it. Late-night hosts joke about it. The jingle gets stuck in everyone's head. Subway is suddenly relevant again. Suddenly winning. Suddenly the smartest chain in fast food. But the franchisees are panicking. The math does not work. A footlong costs around $3 to make. Ingredients, labor, overhead. Selling it for $5 leaves a $2 margin. Out of that $2 margin, the franchisee has to pay rent, utilities, salaries, royalties, and marketing fees. There is almost nothing left, and that is assuming the customer only orders the sandwich. No drink, no chips, no cookies, just the $5 footlong, which is exactly what most customers do because the deal is so good. Franchisees call corporate. They explain the problem. They show the numbers. They beg for relief. Corporate listens and says no. The $5 footlong is driving traffic. It is building brand loyalty. It is working. Franchisees need to find efficiencies, cut costs, work harder. The implication is clear. This is your problem, not ours. Some franchisees try to opt out. They raise prices locally or refuse to honor the promotion. Subway corporate threatens to revoke their franchises. The promotion is mandatory. The price is non-negotiable. You agreed to follow corporate directives when you signed the contract. This is a corporate directive. You will comply or you will lose your franchise. So franchisees comply. And they start looking for ways to survive. They cut portions. The footlong gets a little shorter. The meat gets a little thinner. The vegetables get sparse. They switch to cheaper ingredients, lower quality bread, processed meat with more fillers, wilted lettuce. They cut labor. One person working alone during lunch rush instead of 2. Longer wait times. Dirtier stores. Corners cut everywhere. Customers notice. The sandwiches are not as good. The bread tastes worse. The meat is slimy. The experience is rushed and joyless. But the price is still $5, so they keep coming. And the franchisees keep losing money, month after month, year after year. The $5 footlong is supposed to be temporary, but it never ends. It becomes permanent. It becomes the brand. And it drags Subway down to the bottom of the fast food hierarchy. A discount chain. A race to the bottom. A place you go when you are broke and desperate and need something cheap and fast. The Eat Fresh promise is dead. The health halo is gone. All that is left is the $5 footlong and the slow, grinding collapse of thousands of small businesses. Let's talk about the bread, because this is where things get weird. It is 2020. A court case in Ireland makes international headlines. Subway's bread, according to Irish food standards, is not legally bread. It contains too much sugar. By Irish law, it is classified as a confectionery product, like cake. The ruling is absurd and also kind of perfect. It exposes something everyone had quietly suspected, but nobody had proven. Subway's food is not as fresh or as real as the marketing suggests. The bread is loaded with sugar, preservatives, chemicals with names you cannot pronounce. The same goes for the meat, the cheese, the sauces. It is all designed for shelf life, for consistency, for cost efficiency. Not for health, not for freshness, not for flavor. The Eat Fresh slogan starts to feel like a joke, and once people start looking closer, they cannot unsee it. The vegetables are limp. The meat is slimy. The bread tastes like sweetened foam. Subway is still technically food, but it is food engineered in a lab, not made in a kitchen. And that realization spreads faster than Subway can control. The case starts with taxes. In Ireland, staple foods like bread are not subject to value-added tax. Luxury items and confectionery products are. A Subway franchisee argues that their sandwiches should be tax-exempt because they are made with bread, a staple food. The Irish tax authority disagrees. They examine Subway's bread recipe. They measure the sugar content. And they make a determination. Subway bread contains too much sugar to be legally classified as bread. The sugar content exceeds 10% of the weight of flour in the dough. Under Irish law, that makes it confectionery. Like cake. Like cookies, not bread. The court agrees. The ruling is official. Subway's bread is not bread. It is a sweet baked good. The franchisee loses the tax case. And the story goes viral. Headlines around the world. Subway bread legally classified as cake. It is funny. It is absurd. And it is damning. Because it confirms what people have been saying for years. Subway's food is not real food. It is processed garbage dressed up as fresh and healthy. The backlash is immediate. People post photos of ingredient lists. Subway bread contains dozens of ingredients. Flour, water, yeast. Those are the basics. But also sugar, soybean oil, salt, wheat gluten, yeast extract, dough conditioners, preservatives, calcium propionate, sodium stearoyl lactylate. Things you need a chemistry degree to pronounce. The bread is a science experiment designed to stay soft for days without refrigeration, to taste the same in every store in every country, to never mold or stale or behave like actual bread. And it is not just the bread. People start looking at the other ingredients. The turkey is not just turkey. It is mechanically separated turkey, reformed and pressed into slices with binders and preservatives. The cheese is not cheese. It is processed cheese product, loaded with emulsifiers and stabilizers. The vegetables are pre-cut and pre-washed and shipped in bags filled with preservative solution to keep them from browning. The sauces are squeezed from bottles filled with high fructose corn syrup, soybean oil, artificial flavors, and enough sodium to preserve them for months. Nothing at Subway is fresh in any real sense. It is all engineered for convenience, for shelf life, for consistency. And that is fine for what it is. But it is not what Subway has been selling. Subway has been selling fresh, healthy, real, and the Irish court case exposes that as a lie. The emperor has no clothes. The bread is cake, and once people see it, they cannot unsee it. The internet explodes with jokes and outrage. Memes about Subway bread, taste tests comparing it to actual cake, nutritionists breaking down the ingredient lists and explaining what each chemical does. Food bloggers posting side-by-side photos of Subway sandwiches versus sandwiches made with real ingredients. The contrast is stark. Subway looks fake, processed, sad. Subway's response is defensive. They release a statement saying their bread is safe, delicious, and meets all food safety standards. Which is true, but misses the point. Nobody is saying the bread is dangerous. They are saying it is not bread. They are saying the Eat Fresh promise is a joke. They are saying Subway has been lying for decades. And a corporate statement full of lawyer-approved platitudes does not change that. The damage spreads. Sales drop. Brand perception plummets. People who used to think of Subway as the healthier fast food option now see it as just another processed junk food chain. Maybe worse, because at least McDonald's does not pretend to be healthy. At least Burger King does not claim their food is fresh. Subway built an entire brand on a lie. And the Irish court case is the moment that lie becomes undeniable. It is 2012. A Subway franchisee in California takes his own life. He leaves behind a note blaming the financial pressure, the impossible demands, the lack of support from corporate. His family goes public. The story is heartbreaking, and it is not unique. Other franchisees come forward with similar stories: depression, bankruptcy, divorce, health problems, the stress of running a Subway franchise, of working 100 hours a week and still losing money, of being trapped in a contract you cannot escape, is destroying lives. And Subway's response is silence. No comment, no changes, no acknowledgement. The machine keeps running. New franchises keep opening. The corporate checks keep clearing. But something shifts. The franchisee revolt is no longer just about money. It is about dignity, about being heard, about holding a corporation accountable for the human cost of its business model. And the fight is just beginning. His name is not important for this story. What is important is that he was real. A man in his 50s, an immigrant who came to America believing in the promise of opportunity. He worked construction for 20 years. He saved every dollar he could. He wanted something better for his family, something stable, something he could pass on to his children. A Subway franchise seemed like the answer. Low cost, proven system, thousands of successful stores. He believed the pitch. He signed the contract. He opened his store. The first year was hard but manageable. He worked 16-hour days. His wife helped. His teenage son worked weekends. They were a family business. They were living the dream, or trying to. The margins were thin, but they got by. They started to see regulars. They started to feel like they were building something. Then Subway opened another store 6 blocks away. His sales dropped by 40% in the first month. He called corporate. They told him to work harder, to market better, to find efficiencies. He tried everything. He cut costs. He worked longer hours. He stopped paying himself a salary. He drained his savings. He took out loans. Nothing worked. The new store was stealing his customers, and there was nothing he could do about it. He fell into depression. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. His wife begged him to close the store and walk away. He could not. The shame was too great. The debt was too large. The contract had penalties for early termination. He was trapped. And the pressure kept building. The bills kept coming. The loans came due. The credit cards maxed out. The stress crushed him. He wrote a note. He blamed Subway. He blamed the system. He blamed himself for believing. And then he was gone. His family found him in the stockroom of the store he had worked so hard to build, surrounded by boxes of frozen bread and vacuum-sealed meat. The dream that killed him. His widow went public. She gave interviews to local news. She posted on social media. She wanted people to know what Subway had done to her family. She wanted accountability. She wanted change. The story spread. Other franchisees reached out. They shared their own stories. Some had considered suicide. Some had attempted it. Some were still struggling with the mental health consequences of being trapped in a failing Subway franchise. One franchisee in Texas talked about working 120 hours a week and still losing money every month. About the panic attacks, about the insomnia, about the feeling of drowning with no way to reach the surface. Another in Florida talked about the divorce, the bankruptcy, the foreclosure, the complete destruction of everything he had built over 30 years, all because he believed Subway's promises. The mental health crisis among franchisees is widespread and ignored. There is no support, no resources, no acknowledgement from corporate that the stress is systemic rather than individual. Franchisees suffer in isolation, ashamed to admit they are struggling, afraid that speaking out will cost them their franchise. They work themselves into the ground. They sacrifice their health, their families, their futures. And when they break, Subway does not care. There are always more people willing to sign a franchise agreement, always more bodies to feed into the machine. Subway's response to the suicide is silence. No public statement, no condolences, no reforms, just legal threats to the widow if she continues speaking publicly. The non-disparagement clause in the franchise agreement, they claim, extends to family members. Speaking negatively about Subway could result in legal action. The message is clear. Shut up or we will destroy what is left of your life. But the widow does not shut up, and other franchisees do not shut up. The story becomes a rallying point, a symbol of everything wrong with the franchise system. A man worked himself to death for a corporation that did not care whether he lived or died. And that corporation's only response was to threaten his grieving family with lawsuits. The cruelty is breathtaking, and it galvanizes the opposition. The fight is no longer just about money or contracts or business practices. It is about basic human dignity, about refusing to let Subway grind people into dust without consequences. The breaking point has been reached, and there is no going back. It is 2015 now, and Subway has a problem. The menu has barely changed in 30 years. Cold cuts, bread, vegetables, repeat. Competitors are innovating. They are offering customization, artisan ingredients, bold flavors. Subway is still selling the same turkey and cheese it sold in 1985. Corporate tries to respond. They introduced new sandwiches, flatbreads, wraps, salads. None of it sticks. Customers do not go to Subway for innovation. They go because it is cheap and convenient. But cheap and convenient is not enough anymore. Fast casual chains like Chipotle and Panera are stealing market share. They offer the illusion of quality without charging McDonald's prices. Subway is stuck in the middle, too expensive to compete with dollar menus, too low quality to compete with fast casual. The brand identity is fracturing, and nobody, not the franchisees, not corporate, not the customers, can figure out what Subway is supposed to be anymore. Walk into a Subway in 2015. Look at the menu board. The options are exactly what they were in 1995. Italian BMT, spicy Italian, turkey breast, ham, roast beef, tuna, meatball marinara. The names have not changed. The ingredients have not changed. The prices have gone up, but everything else is frozen in time. It is like walking into a restaurant that stopped evolving 3 decades ago and just kept going through muscle memory. Compare that to what is happening in the rest of the fast food world. McDonald's is experimenting with artisan chicken sandwiches and premium burgers. Taco Bell is launching Doritos Locos Tacos and breakfast menus. Wendy's is doing fresh beef campaigns and spicy chicken innovations. Even chains that were struggling are trying new things. But Subway just keeps making the same sandwiches in the same way with the same ingredients. Corporate is not blind to this. They see the sales reports. They see competitors gaining ground. They know something has to change. So they launch new products. In 2006, they introduced personal pizzas and flatbreads. The idea is to expand beyond sandwiches, to give customers more options. The products are mediocre. The flatbreads are just sandwich ingredients on flatbread instead of sub rolls. The pizzas are small, overpriced, and taste like cardboard with cheese. Customers try them once out of curiosity and never order them again. Then come the wraps. Same concept. Take the sandwich ingredients, put them in a tortilla instead of on bread. It is not innovation. It is rearrangement. And customers see through it. The wraps do not sell. Most stores stop making them because they just sit in the cooler getting soggy. Subway tries breakfast. Eggs, bacon, cheese on flatbread. It is fine. Not great, not terrible, just fine. But nobody thinks of Subway as a breakfast place. And the franchisees hate it because it means opening earlier, hiring more staff, stocking more ingredients, all for minimal additional revenue. The breakfast push fails. Most stores abandon it. The salads get a similar reception. Subway has always technically offered salads. Just take sandwich ingredients and put them in a bowl instead of on bread. But now they are trying to promote salads as a main offering. The problem is the vegetables are limp and pre-cut and sitting in the same bins they use for sandwiches. The salads look sad. They taste sad. And they cost almost as much as a sandwich, which makes no sense to customers. Nothing works because Subway is trying to innovate within a system designed for consistency, not creativity. The entire business model is built on sameness. Every store is the same. Every sandwich is the same. Every experience is the same. That was the selling point. That was the promise. But now it is a liability. Because sameness is boring. And boring does not compete in a market where customers have unlimited choices. Meanwhile, fast casual chains are exploding. Chipotle opens in 1993, and by 2015, they have nearly 2,000 locations. Their model is simple: better ingredients, visible preparation, customization, higher prices but perceived higher quality. They position themselves as the anti-fast food: fresh, real, ethical. And it works. People pay $9 for a burrito bowl at Chipotle and feel good about it. They will not pay $9 for a Subway sandwich because Subway does not feel special. It feels cheap and processed and unchanged. Panera does the same thing with sandwiches and soups. Higher quality ingredients, bakery fresh bread, clean stores with Wi-Fi and comfortable seating. They charge more, but customers perceive more value. Panera feels like a step up from fast food. Subway feels like fast food pretending not to be fast food. Subway is caught in the middle. They cannot compete on price with McDonald's dollar menu. They cannot compete on quality with Chipotle and Panera. They cannot compete on innovation with Taco Bell. They are stuck being mediocre at everything. And the menu, unchanged and uninspiring, reflects that perfectly. It is a menu designed in the 1980s for a market that no longer exists. And no amount of flatbreads or wraps or sad salads can change that fundamental problem. It is 2021. A lawsuit is filed claiming Subway's tuna is not actually tuna. Lab tests allegedly show no tuna DNA. Subway denies it. The lawsuit drags on. The truth is murky. But the damage is done. People start joking about it. Memes spread. Late-night hosts mock it. And once again, Subway is forced to defend the most basic claim: that the food is what they say it is. This is not the first time. There have been yoga mat chemicals in the bread. There have been questions about the chicken. There have been exposés about frozen vegetables labeled as fresh. Each scandal is small on its own, but together they create a pattern. Subway cannot be trusted. The Eat Fresh promise is a lie. The food is a mystery, and the brand that built itself on transparency and simplicity is now synonymous with deception and cutting corners. The lawsuit is filed in California. 2 plaintiffs claim they purchased tuna sandwiches from multiple Subway locations and had them tested by an independent lab. The lab results, according to the lawsuit, show no detectable tuna DNA. The lawsuit alleges fraud, intentional misrepresentation, and unjust enrichment. It claims Subway is charging customers for tuna while serving them something else. The lawsuit does not say what the something else is, just that it is not tuna. Subway's response is immediate and defensive. They issue a statement saying their tuna is 100% wild-caught, real tuna. They call the lawsuit baseless and reckless. They say they are disappointed that plaintiffs would make such claims without testing the product properly. The tone is indignant. How dare anyone question our tuna? But the damage is instant. The story goes viral. News outlets cover it. Social media explodes. Everyone has a take. Some people claim they always knew the tuna was fake. Others defend Subway. Most just joke about it. What is Subway putting in the tuna sandwiches, if not tuna? Theories range from the plausible to the absurd. Is it processed fish paste? Is it soy protein? Is it something even worse? Nobody knows. And Subway is not providing details beyond their blanket denial. The New York Times investigates. They buy Subway tuna sandwiches from multiple locations and send samples to a commercial lab for testing. The lab analyzes the samples and reports that they cannot confirm the tuna is actually tuna. They find no amplifiable tuna DNA. That does not mean it is not tuna. It could mean the tuna is so heavily processed that the DNA is degraded. Or it could mean it is not tuna. The results are inconclusive, which somehow makes it worse, because now there is scientific uncertainty. Now even the experts cannot say for sure what Subway is serving. This is not Subway's first ingredient scandal. In 2014, a food blogger discovers that Subway's bread contains azotocarbonamide, a chemical used in yoga mats and shoe soles. It is legal. It is FDA approved. It is used as a dough conditioner to make bread fluffier and whiter. But it is also used in rubber and plastic manufacturing. And when people find out they are eating yoga mat chemicals, they are disgusted. Subway responds to public pressure and announces they will remove the chemical from their bread. Which raises the question, if it was safe, why remove it? And if it was not safe, why was it there in the first place? Then there is the chicken scandal. In 2017, a Canadian news program tests Subway's chicken. They send samples to a lab for DNA analysis. The results show that Subway's chicken strips are only about 50% chicken DNA. The rest is soy. Subway's oven-roasted chicken is about 53% chicken. The rest, again, is soy. Subway denies the results. They commission their own tests which show the chicken is 100% chicken. 2 different labs. 2 completely different results. Nobody knows who to believe. But the stain on the brand remains. If you cannot trust that the chicken is actually chicken, what can you trust? The pattern is clear. Every few years, a new scandal. A new question about whether Subway's ingredients are real. Each time, Subway denies everything. Each time, they issue statements and hire lawyers and attack the credibility of whoever is asking questions. And each time, the public believes them a little less. The tuna lawsuit is still ongoing as of 2022. Discovery is happening. Depositions are being taken. Evidence is being gathered. But the verdict does not matter anymore. The damage is done. People believe Subway's tuna might not be tuna. They believe the chicken might be half soy. They believe the bread is basically cake. They believe Subway is lying about everything. And once that belief takes hold, it is almost impossible to undo. Subway tries to fight back with marketing. They launch a campaign showing their tuna being delivered, being prepared, being served. They post videos of the supply chain. They bring in food scientists to vouch for the quality. None of it works. Because trust, once broken, cannot be rebuilt with commercials. And Subway has broken that trust too many times. The Eat Fresh slogan is not just outdated. It is a punchline, a reminder of how far the brand has fallen. From the biggest restaurant chain in the world to the chain that cannot prove its tuna is actually tuna. That is the legacy. That is what decades of cutting corners and prioritizing profit over quality gets you. By 2016, the cracks are visible. Sales are dropping. Stores are closing. For the first time in decades, Subway is shrinking. In the United States alone, they close more than 1,000 locations in a single year. Franchisees are walking away. Some are declaring bankruptcy. Others are just shutting the doors and disappearing. The strip malls that once had 2 or 3 Subways now have none. The brand is in free fall. Corporate tries to spin it. They say they are focusing on quality over quantity. They say they are optimizing the network. But the truth is simpler. The model is broken. Too many stores, too little profit, too much competition, and too much damage to the brand to recover easily. Subway is still the largest restaurant chain in the world by location count, but it is bleeding, and nobody knows how to stop it. The numbers tell the story. In 2015, Subway has 27,300 locations in the United States. Peak saturation. More Subways than McDonald's, more than Starbucks, more than anyone. By 2016, they are down to 26,000. By 2017, 25,000. By 2018, 24,000. The decline accelerates. Every year, hundreds of stores close. Some franchisees sell to new owners who think they can turn it around. Most just walk away. The doors lock. The signs come down. The space sits empty or gets leased to a vape shop or a nail salon. Drive through any American suburb and you can see it. The closed Subway in the strip mall next to the Dollar Tree. The windows soaped over. The for lease sign in the parking lot. The faded green and yellow logo still barely visible on the facade. These are not just failed businesses. These are monuments to broken dreams. Each one represents a franchisee who believed the pitch, who invested their savings, who worked themselves into exhaustion, and who lost everything. The reasons for the closures are varied, but interconnected. Oversaturation is the biggest one. Subway opened too many stores too close together. Markets that could support 2 Subways were given 5. The stores cannibalized each other. Sales dropped below the break-even point. Franchisees could not make rent. They could not make payroll. They could not keep the lights on. They closed. Competition is another factor. The fast casual boom of the 2000s and 2010s pulls customers away from traditional fast food. People are willing to pay a little more for food that feels fresher and healthier and less corporate. Subway cannot compete on quality and cannot compete on price. They are stuck in no man's land. Not good enough to charge premium prices. Not cheap enough to win on value. The $5 footlong is still strangling profitability. Even though the promotion technically ended, customers still expect cheap food. Subway cannot raise prices without backlash, but they cannot maintain quality at current prices, so quality slides, which drives more customers away, which forces franchisees to cut costs further. The spiral continues downward. And then there is the reputational damage, the Jared scandal, the tuna lawsuit, the yoga mat bread, the chicken that is half soy. Every scandal chips away at the brand. Every joke on social media, every meme, every late-night monologue. Subway becomes synonymous with low quality and dishonesty. And once that perception solidifies, it is almost impossible to change. Franchisees see the writing on the wall. Sales are down 20, 30, 40% from their peak. They are losing money every month. Their contracts are expiring or coming up for renewal. And they make the rational choice. They do not renew. They close. They cut their losses and move on. Some try to sell their franchises, but there are no buyers. Who wants to buy a failing Subway in an oversaturated market with a damaged brand? The stores just shut down. Subway corporate watches this happen and does almost nothing to stop it. They do not offer financial support to struggling franchisees. They do not buy back failing locations. They do not reduce royalty fees or provide marketing assistance. They just let the stores close and move on to the next market. Because the corporate revenue model is not based on store profitability. It is based on store count and franchise fees. As long as new stores are opening somewhere in the world, corporate is fine. The fact that more stores are closing than opening in the United States is a problem for the franchisees, not for corporate. The closures create a feedback loop. As stores close, brand visibility decreases. Customers forget about Subway. They drive past the empty storefront and go to Chipotle or Panera or Chick-fil-A instead. The remaining Subway locations see their sales drop further. More closures follow. The brand presence shrinks, and the downward spiral accelerates. By 2021, Subway has fewer than 21,000 locations in the United States. They have lost more than 6,000 stores in less than a decade. It is one of the most dramatic collapses in fast food history. A brand that once seemed invincible is now struggling to survive. And the people paying the price are not the executives or the investors. It is the franchisees, the men and women who believed the promise, who worked 100 hours a week, who sacrificed everything, and who are now left with empty stores, crushing debt, and nothing to show for it but a broken dream and a closed sign in the window. Fred DeLuca dies in 2015. He leaves behind a billion-dollar empire and a mess. His family controls the company, but they are not operators. They are heirs, and they do not agree on what to do next. Lawsuits follow. Family drama spills into the press. The company is rudderless. Leadership changes. Strategies shift. Nothing sticks. Meanwhile, franchisees are still struggling. They are still trapped in bad contracts. They are still watching their stores fail. And the people at the top are fighting over money while the foundation crumbles. It is a perfect portrait of late-stage corporate decay. Oh, the founders are gone. The mission is lost. The only thing left is the cash, and everyone is grabbing for it. Fred DeLuca dies of leukemia at age 67. He spent nearly 50 years building Subway from a single sandwich shop in Bridgeport to the largest restaurant chain in the world. He is a legend in the franchise industry, a self-made billionaire, an American success story. And when he dies, he leaves the company to his family. His widow, Elizabeth DeLuca, takes control. His sister and other relatives hold key positions. The estate is worth over $1 billion. But the company itself is in trouble. Elizabeth DeLuca is not Fred. She did not grow up in the business. She did not build it from nothing. She is an heir, not an operator. And she is surrounded by advisors and family members who all have different ideas about what Subway should be. Some want to sell the company while it is still valuable. Others want to hold on and try to turn things around. Others just want to extract as much money as possible before it collapses completely. The infighting begins almost immediately. Lawsuits are filed. Family members sue each other over control of the company, over distribution of assets, over decision-making authority. The details are messy and public. Court filings reveal accusations of mismanagement, of self-dealing, of breach of fiduciary duty. The DeLuca family, once unified behind Fred's vision, is now tearing itself apart over his fortune. Meanwhile, the company is floundering. Leadership changes constantly. CEOs come and go. In the 5 years after Fred's death, Subway goes through multiple leadership transitions. Each new CEO announces a bold new strategy: a rebrand, a menu refresh, a store redesign, a digital transformation. None of it works. Each strategy is abandoned before it has time to succeed or fail. The company lurches from one initiative to the next with no coherent vision. Suzanne Greco, Fred's sister, takes over as president after his death. She has worked at Subway for years, but mostly in operations, not strategy. She is not prepared to lead a company in crisis. Her tenure is marked by indecision and internal conflict. Franchisees complain that she is inaccessible, that corporate is unresponsive, that nobody is listening to their concerns. Sales continue to decline. Store closures accelerate. And Greco seems paralyzed, unable or unwilling to make the hard decisions needed to turn things around. She is eventually pushed out. The family brings in outside leadership, professional executives with experience at other chains. They promise to modernize Subway, to bring it into the 21st century. But they run into the same problems. The franchise system is broken, the brand is damaged, the competition is fierce, and the family ownership structure makes it almost impossible to make bold moves. Every decision has to be approved by multiple stakeholders with competing interests. Nothing gets done. The franchisees watch all of this with frustration and despair. They are the ones on the front lines. They are the ones losing money. They are the ones dealing with customers who complain about quality and service. They are the ones begging corporate for help. And corporate is too busy fighting over Fred's estate to care. The disconnect is staggering. At the top, billionaires are arguing over who gets what slice of the fortune. At the bottom, franchisees are going bankrupt and closing their stores. The two worlds do not intersect. Corporate collects its fees and royalties regardless of what happens to individual stores. The franchisees bear all the risk and all the pain, and the people at the top are insulated from it completely. This is not unique to Subway. This is what happens to a lot of family-owned businesses after the founder dies. The second generation inherits the money but not the vision or the work ethic or the skill. They fight over the scraps while the company they inherited slowly disintegrates. It is sad and predictable and entirely avoidable. But it happens anyway because greed and ego and family dysfunction are more powerful than common sense. By 2020, it is clear that the DeLuca family cannot run Subway. The company needs to be sold or dramatically restructured, but the family cannot agree on anything. So the chaos continues. The leadership changes continue. The sales decline continues. And the franchisees continue to suffer, while the people at the top count their money and hire lawyers to sue each other. Fred DeLuca built an empire. His heirs are watching it crumble while they fight over who gets to sit on the throne. It is 2017. Subway tries to reinvent itself. New logo, new uniforms, new menu items, new advertising campaign. They bring in celebrity chefs. They launch fresh forward stores with open kitchens and digital ordering. It is slick, it is expensive, and it does not work. Customers do not care about the rebrand. They care about the food, the price, and the experience. And all three are still subpar. The rebrand feels desperate, like putting lipstick on a pig. Franchisees are furious. They are forced to pay for renovations they cannot afford. They are told the changes will bring in customers. The customers do not come. The rebrand becomes another layer of debt, Another broken promise. Another reason to regret ever signing that franchise agreement. The rebrand is announced with great fanfare. Subway hires a branding agency. They spend millions on research and focus groups. They unveil a sleek new logo. The old one, with its arrows suggesting movement, is replaced by something simpler, cleaner, more modern. The green is brighter. The yellow is bolder. It is supposed to signal freshness and energy. It just looks like a logo. The uniforms change too. Out go the green polo shirts and visors that have defined Subway employees for decades. In come black shirts with green accents. More modern, more professional. The employees look less like fast food workers and more like baristas. It is supposed to elevate the brand. It just confuses customers who walk in expecting the familiar green and yellow and instead see something that looks like a completely different restaurant. The menu gets a makeover. Subway introduces new sandwiches with premium ingredients. Carved turkey, rotisserie chicken, artisan bread. The names are fancier. The descriptions are longer. The prices are higher. The sandwiches themselves are fine. Not great, not terrible, just fine. And customers do not understand why they should pay more for what is essentially the same sandwich with a different name. Celebrity chefs are brought in for credibility. Subway partners with well-known names from the culinary world to develop new recipes and endorse the brand. The chefs show up in commercials talking about fresh ingredients and culinary craftsmanship. It is transparently desperate. Nobody believes that a celebrity chef has any real involvement in Subway's menu development. It is just another marketing gimmick. The big push is the Fresh Forward store concept. Subway designs a new store prototype. Open kitchens so customers can see the food being prepared. Digital menu boards. Self-service kiosks. Modern lighting and seating. Wood accents and industrial design. It looks like a fast casual restaurant. It looks like Chipotle or Panera. It does not look like Subway. The problem is the cost. Retrofitting an existing store to the Fresh Forward design costs tens of thousands of dollars. Building a new Fresh Forward store from scratch costs even more. And corporate is not paying for it. The franchisees are. Subway mandates the changes. If your lease is up for renewal, you have to renovate to the new design or lose your franchise. If you want to open a new location, it has to be Fresh Forward, no exceptions. Franchisees are furious. They are already struggling. Sales are down. Profits are non-existent. And now they are being told to spend $50,000 or $75,000 to renovate a store that is barely breaking even. They beg for relief. They ask corporate to subsidize the renovations or to make them optional. Corporate refuses. The rebrand is mandatory. This is the future of Subway. Get on board or get out. Some franchisees take out loans to pay for the renovations. They are told that the new design will increase sales, that customers will be drawn to the modern aesthetic, that the investment will pay for itself in increased revenue. They renovate. They reopen with the new design. And the customers do not come. Or they come once out of curiosity and do not come back. Because the problem is not the logo or the uniforms or the design. The problem is the food. The problem is the value proposition. The problem is that Subway is still selling mediocre sandwiches at prices that no longer feel like a bargain. The Fresh Forward stores look nice. They are clean and modern and well lit. But they are still serving the same processed turkey and the same bread that tastes like cake and the same limp vegetables. A nice design cannot fix that. And customers are not stupid. They see through it. This is not a reinvention. This is a desperate attempt to seem relevant. And it fails. The advertising campaign is equally ineffective. Subway launches a series of commercials highlighting the changes. Fresh ingredients, modern stores, better experience. The commercials are well produced and expensive. They air during prime time and major sporting events. And they have almost no impact on sales. Because advertising cannot solve a product problem. And Subway's problem is the product. By 2019, the rebrand is widely considered a failure. Sales have not rebounded. Store closures have not slowed. And franchisees are left with debt from renovations that did not deliver the promised results. The Fresh Forward stores are just regular Subways with better lighting. The new logo is just a logo. The celebrity chefs have moved on to other endorsements. And Subway is exactly where it was before the rebrand, except now franchisees are deeper in debt and more disillusioned than ever. Let's talk about the contracts because this is where the cruelty really lives. A Subway franchise agreement is not a partnership. It is a one-sided deal designed to protect corporate and extract as much money as possible from the franchisee. You cannot set your own prices. You cannot choose your own suppliers. You cannot modify the menu. You cannot sell without corporate approval. You cannot even close without penalties. You are locked in for 20 years. And if you try to fight, if you try to organize, if you try to speak out, Subway can terminate your agreement and destroy your livelihood. It is legal. It is brutal. And it is the foundation of the entire system. Franchisees are not business owners. They are indentured servants. And the contract is the chain. The franchise agreement is a thick document, 100 pages or more. Dense legal language. Clauses within clauses. Definitions and exceptions and carve-outs. Most people do not read it. They cannot understand it even if they try. They trust the brand. They trust the pitch. They sign on the dotted line. And they have no idea what they just agreed to. The contract gives Subway almost unlimited control. Corporate sets the menu. You cannot add items. You cannot remove items. You sell what they tell you to sell. Corporate sets the prices. Well, technically you can set your own prices, but the contract requires that your prices be competitive with other Subways in the area. And since corporate controls what other Subways charge, you effectively have no pricing power. If you charge too much, corporate can force you to lower your prices. If you charge too little, same thing. You cannot choose your suppliers. Subway designates approved suppliers for everything. Bread, meat, vegetables, napkins, cups, everything. You must buy from these suppliers. The prices are set. You have no ability to negotiate. And the suppliers pay kickbacks to Subway corporate. It is a closed loop designed to extract money at every stage. The franchisee pays inflated prices. The supplier gets guaranteed business. Subway gets a cut of everything. The only one who loses is the franchisee. You cannot modify anything without approval. Want to repaint your store? You need corporate approval. Want to change your hours? Approval. Want to hire differently? Approval. Every decision, no matter how small, runs through corporate. And corporate is slow to respond and quick to say no. The level of control is suffocating. The contract term is typically 20 years. 20 years. Most franchisees do not make it 5 years. But if you want to close early, there are penalties. You have to pay corporate for the remaining years on the contract. You have to pay to remove the signage and de-identify the location. You have to pay legal fees. The cost of getting out can be more than the cost of staying in. So franchisees are trapped. They keep operating at a loss because closing would bankrupt them completely. If you want to sell your franchise, you need corporate approval, and corporate has the right to refuse any buyer for any reason. They also have the right of first refusal. If you find a buyer willing to pay $50,000 for your franchise, Subway can step in and buy it for the same price, which they never do. But the threat is there. It keeps resale values low, and it gives Subway leverage. If you cause problems, if you speak out, if you organize, Subway can make it impossible for you to sell. You are stuck. The contract also includes non-disparagement clauses. You cannot publicly criticize Subway. You cannot speak to the media without permission. You cannot post negative reviews or comments on social media. If you do, Subway can terminate your franchise agreement and sue you for damages. The clause is designed to silence dissent. And it works. Franchisees suffer in silence because speaking out means losing everything. There are also non-compete clauses. If you leave Subway, you cannot open a competing sandwich shop within a certain radius for a certain number of years. Even after you are gone, even after Subway has taken everything from you, they still control what you can do next. It is punitive. It is designed to make leaving as painful as possible. The arbitration clauses prevent class action lawsuits. If you have a dispute with Subway, you cannot join with other franchisees to file a collective lawsuit. You have to go to arbitration individually, and arbitration is expensive, and arbitration is private, and arbitration almost always favors the corporation. The deck is stacked, the system is rigged, and the franchisee has no real recourse. Reading through the contract, it becomes clear that this is not a partnership. This is not an opportunity. This is a mechanism for extracting wealth from people who have less power and less information. Subway Corporate has teams of lawyers who draft these agreements. They know every loophole. They know every advantage. The franchisee signs the contract thinking they are starting a business. They are actually signing up for 20 years of servitude to a corporation that does not care if they succeed or fail. The contract is the trap. And once you sign it, there is almost no way out. Here is one of the ugliest parts. Subway forces franchisees to buy supplies from approved vendors. Bread from this bakery, meat from this distributor, vegetables from this supplier. The prices are inflated. The quality is inconsistent. And the reason becomes clear. Subway is getting kickbacks. The suppliers pay Subway for the exclusive right to sell to franchisees. Subway pockets the money. The franchisees pay the markup. It is a brilliant scam, and it is perfectly legal. The franchise agreement allows it. Franchisees have no choice. They pay the inflated prices or they lose their franchise. Some try to fight. They file lawsuits. They lose. The system is designed to protect Subway, not the people who actually run the stores. The approved supplier system is sold as quality control. Subway tells franchisees that the suppliers are carefully vetted, that they meet strict standards, that using approved suppliers ensures consistency and food safety across all locations. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like Subway is looking out for its franchisees. It is a lie. The truth is the approved supplier system is a profit center for Subway Corporate. Suppliers pay for the privilege of being on the approved list. They pay annual fees. They pay rebates based on volume. They pay marketing contributions. All of this money goes to Subway Corporate. None of it goes to the franchisees. And the costs are passed directly to the franchisees in the form of inflated prices. A franchisee in Texas runs the numbers. He compares what he pays for supplies from Subway's approved vendors to what he could pay if he bought the same products on the open market. The approved bread costs 30% more. The meat costs 40% more. The vegetables cost 25% more. He is paying thousands of dollars extra every month for the same products he could buy cheaper elsewhere. He calls corporate to complain. They tell him the prices are non-negotiable. He asks if he can source his own supplies. They tell him no. The contract requires approved suppliers only. He is not alone. Franchisees across the country are having the same realization. The supplier prices are gouging them, and there is nothing they can do about it. Some franchisees get creative. They try to smuggle in cheaper supplies. They buy bread from a local bakery and try to pass it off as approved bread. Subway finds out. Subway sends inspectors to do surprise audits. The franchisees are caught. They are fined. They are threatened with termination. The message is clear. Use approved suppliers, or lose your franchise. The lawsuits start in the early 2000s. Franchisees file complaints alleging that Subway is engaged in an illegal tying arrangement, forcing them to buy supplies at inflated prices as a condition of the franchise agreement. They argue that Subway is profiting unfairly, that the kickbacks from suppliers are hidden fees that were not disclosed in the franchise disclosure documents. They argue that the whole system is fraudulent. Subway fights back hard. Their legal argument is simple. The franchise agreement clearly states the franchisees must use approved suppliers. The franchisees signed the agreement. They knew what they were getting into. There is no fraud. There is no misrepresentation. This is just business. And besides, Subway says, the rebates and fees they receive from suppliers are used to fund national marketing campaigns and to improve the system. The franchisees benefit indirectly. The courts side with Subway. The franchise agreement is a contract. The franchisees agreed to the terms. The supplier requirements are clearly stated. There is no basis for a fraud claim. Case dismissed. The franchisees are ordered to pay Subway's legal fees. It is a total loss. But the facts are damning. Subway is making hundreds of millions of dollars in rebates and kickbacks from suppliers. Money that comes directly from the inflated prices charged to franchisees. It is a hidden tax, a fee that is never disclosed in the franchise disclosure documents. And it is perfectly legal because the contracts are written to allow it. Some franchisees dig deeper. They obtain internal documents through discovery and lawsuits. The documents show that Subway negotiates deals with suppliers that include volume rebates, marketing fees, and signing bonuses. The suppliers agree to pay Subway a percentage of every sale to franchisees. Subway agrees to give the suppliers exclusive access to tens of thousands of captive customers who have no choice but to buy from them. It is a sweetheart deal for both sides. And the franchisees are the ones paying for it. The markup is not just on food, it is on everything. The ovens franchisees are required to buy, the coolers, the furniture, the point-of-sale systems. All of it comes from approved suppliers. All of it is marked up. And all of the markup includes kickbacks to Subway corporate. A franchisee calculates that over the life of a 20-year contract, they will pay well over $100,000 in hidden fees through inflated supplier prices. Money that goes straight to Subway's bottom line. This is not unique to Subway. Many franchisors use similar systems. But Subway is one of the most aggressive. And because they have so many franchisees and such tight control, the total amount of money they extract is staggering. Billions of dollars over the years. Money that could have gone to franchisee profits, to employee wages, to better quality ingredients. Instead, it goes to Subway corporate and to suppliers who are willing to pay for access. The franchisees are powerless. They cannot negotiate. They cannot opt out. They cannot even complain without risking their franchise. The supplier kickback system is one of the clearest examples of how the franchise model is designed to benefit corporate at the expense of the people doing the actual work. It is legal. It is disclosed in the fine print of contracts most people do not read or understand. And it is quietly destroying the livelihoods of thousands of people who believed they were buying into an opportunity, not a scam. A lot of Subway franchisees are immigrants, people who came to America looking for opportunity, who believed in the promise of hard work and ownership. They scraped together their savings. They brought in family members to help. They worked 100 hours a week. and Subway sold them a dream that turned into a trap. The language barriers made the contracts harder to understand. The cultural pressure to succeed made it harder to walk away. And Subway knew this. They targeted immigrant communities. They made the pitch in multiple languages. They made it seem safe, simple, achievable, and then they buried people in debt, in impossible margins, in legal agreements that were designed to fail. The American dream became a nightmare, and Subway profited every step of the way. Drive through any major American city and look at who is behind the counters at Subway. Immigrants from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Korea, Mexico, Central America, the Middle East. The franchisees are often first-generation Americans. The employees are often their family members. This is not an accident. This is by design. Subway targets immigrant communities for franchise sales. The pitch is tailored specifically to people who are new to America, who are looking for economic stability, who believe in the mythology of the American dream. The franchising materials are translated into multiple languages: Hindi, Spanish, Korean, Mandarin. The sales representatives often come from the same communities they are pitching to. They speak the language. They understand the culture. They know exactly what to say to make the opportunity sound irresistible. The pitch is powerful. You came to America for opportunity. You worked hard. You saved money. Now you can own your own business. You can be your own boss. You can build something for your family, something you can pass down to your children. Subway is affordable. Subway is proven. Subway has 30,000 successful stores. You can be one of them. Just sign here. For many immigrants, this is the dream they came to America to chase. In their home countries, business ownership was out of reach, reserved for the wealthy or well-connected. But in America, the franchise system promises that anyone can own a business. You do not need connections. You do not need special skills. You just need to work hard and follow the system. It is the meritocracy myth at its purest, and people believe it. They sign the contract. They do not fully understand it. English is often their second language. Legal English is incomprehensible. They trust the brand. They trust the system. They trust that America rewards hard work. They invest their life savings, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, everything they have. Sometimes they borrow more. They bring in relatives to work for free or below minimum wage. Cousins, siblings, parents. Everyone contributes because this is a family investment. The first year is brutal. The hours are crushing. The margins are thinner than expected. But they keep working. They keep believing. Then reality sets in. The royalties are eating their profits. The supplier prices are inflated. A new Subway opens nearby, and their sales drop. They are losing money. They are falling behind on rent. They are maxing out credit cards just to make payroll. They call corporate for help. The person on the phone does not speak their language, or speaks it poorly. Communication is difficult. The help does not come. They ask about territory protection. They are told there is none. They ask about reducing royalties. They are told no. They ask what they should do. They are told to work harder, to market better, to be more efficient. The cultural pressure makes it worse. In many immigrant communities, failure is shameful. Admitting that the business is not working means admitting that you failed, that you wasted the family's money, that you let everyone down. So people keep going, even when it is clearly hopeless. They work longer hours. They cut more corners. They sacrifice their health, their relationships, their sanity, because walking away feels impossible. And Subway knows this. They know that immigrant franchisees are less likely to complain, less likely to organize, less likely to sue. The language barriers make legal action difficult. The fear of immigration consequences, even for legal immigrants, creates additional pressure to stay quiet. The cultural stigma around failure keeps people trapped. Subway exploits all of this. There are stories that break your heart. A family from India sells everything they own back home to open a Subway in suburban New Jersey. They work 18-hour days. The father, the mother, the adult children. 3 years in, they are $100,000 in debt. They close the store. They file for bankruptcy. The father has a heart attack from the stress. The family returns to India, broken and ashamed. A couple from Korea opens a Subway in Los Angeles. They work 7 days a week for 5 years. They never take a day off. They sleep in the back of the store some nights to save on rent. They are still losing money. They try to sell. Nobody will buy. They walk away and let Subway keep the equipment and the deposits. They lose everything, years of their lives, all their savings, their health, for nothing. These are not isolated incidents. These are patterns. Thousands of immigrant families have had similar experiences. They came to America believing in opportunity. They believed Subway when Subway said this was their chance. And Subway took everything from them and gave nothing back. The cruelty is in the targeting. Subway did not accidentally end up with a large immigrant franchisee base. They cultivated it. They marketed specifically to these communities because they knew they could extract more from them. More hours, more unpaid family labor, more tolerance for abuse, less pushback, less legal action. Immigrant franchisees were the perfect victims for a predatory franchise system. And Subway knew it. Let's not forget the people actually making the sandwiches. Subway workers are among the lowest paid in the fast food industry. Most make minimum wage or close to it. No benefits, no security, no future. They are often teenagers, immigrants, people working 2 or 3 jobs to survive. The franchisees cannot afford to pay more. The margins are too thin. Corporate does not care. They get their fees regardless. And so, the workers suffer. High turnover, low morale, constant stress. And the customers feel it. The service is slow. The quality is inconsistent. The experience is joyless. Subway is not just failing its franchisees. It is failing everyone who works there, everyone who eats there, everyone who believed the brand meant something. Step behind the counter at a typical Subway. It is a Tuesday afternoon. The lunch rush just ended. One person is working, maybe 2 if it is a busier location. They are making minimum wage. In 2020, that is $7.25 an hour federally. Some states are higher. Some are still at the federal minimum. Either way, it is poverty wages. The work is not easy. You are on your feet for 8 hours. You are assembling sandwiches as fast as you can during rush periods. You are cleaning between customers. You are handling cash. You are restocking supplies. You are taking out trash. You are scrubbing bathrooms. You are doing the work of 2 or 3 people because the franchisee cannot afford to properly staff the store. There are no benefits, no health insurance, no paid sick days, no paid vacation. You get hurt, you do not work, you do not get paid. You get sick, same thing. You are completely on your own. And the hours are unpredictable. You might work 20 hours one week and 35 the next. The franchisee schedules based on projected traffic. You cannot plan your life. You cannot budget. You cannot take a second job with a fixed schedule because your Subway schedule changes every week. The training is minimal. You get a few hours of instruction on how to make sandwiches and run the register. That is it. No real food safety training. No customer service training. No management training. You are thrown into the job and expected to figure it out. If you make mistakes, you get yelled at. If you are too slow, you get yelled at. If customers complain, you get yelled at. There is no support. The turnover is astronomical. Most Subway employees quit within a few months, some within weeks. The job is hard, the pay is terrible, and there is no opportunity for advancement. Why would anyone stay? The franchisees are constantly hiring because they are constantly losing workers, which means the stores are constantly staffed by new people who do not know what they are doing, which means the service is slow and the quality is inconsistent, which drives customers away, which makes the franchisee's financial situation worse. It is a vicious cycle, and the workers themselves are often vulnerable. Teenagers working their first job, immigrants with limited English and limited options, people with criminal records who cannot find work elsewhere, single parents desperate for any income. These are not people with leverage. These are not people who can demand better wages or better conditions. They take what they can get, and Subway pays them as little as legally possible. The franchisees are not villains here. Most of them would love to pay their workers more, but they cannot afford it. The profit margins are so thin that even a small increase in labor costs can push them from barely profitable to losing money. They are trapped between the need to control costs and the need to retain workers. Most choose to control costs, which means high turnover, which means worse service, which means fewer customers, which makes the financial situation even worse. Corporate does not care about any of this. Subway collects its royalties and fees based on gross sales, not on profit. Whether the franchisee is making money or losing money is irrelevant. Whether the workers are paid fairly is irrelevant. Corporate gets paid either way. There is no incentive to improve wages or working conditions. There is no incentive to properly staff stores. The system is designed to extract maximum revenue while pushing all costs and risks onto franchisees and workers. The customer experience reflects this. You walk into a Subway and wait in line while one exhausted teenager tries to make sandwiches for 5 people. The line is slow. The worker is stressed. The vegetables look wilted. The counter is dirty. The whole experience feels rushed and joyless. This is not because the worker is bad at their job. It is because the system is broken. One person cannot do the work of 3. But that is what the system demands. Subway likes to call their employees sandwich artists. It is supposed to sound creative and empowering. It is insulting. These are not artists. These are low-wage workers being ground down by a system that does not value them. They are assembling mass-produced sandwiches in a corporate chain for poverty wages, with no benefits and no future. Calling them artists does not change that. It just makes the exploitation sound friendlier. The workers are the face of Subway. They are the people customers interact with. They are the ones who make or break the experience. And they are paid so little and treated so poorly that they have no reason to care. No reason to go the extra mile. No reason to smile, or to be friendly, or to take pride in their work. They show up, they do the minimum, they collect their meager paycheck, and they leave. And you cannot blame them. The system does not reward effort. It does not reward loyalty. It just grinds people down and replaces them when they quit. It is 2022 now, and Subway has become culturally irrelevant. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. It is not cool. It is not nostalgic. It is not even particularly convenient anymore. It exists in the background of American life, a fading logo in a tired strip mall. The brand that once defined affordable lunch has been replaced by food trucks, by meal kits, by delivery apps, by anything that feels less corporate and more human. Subway is the restaurant equivalent of a dial-up modem, technically functional, completely outdated, and slowly being forgotten. Think about the last time you heard someone excited about going to Subway. Think about the last time Subway came up in conversation in any context other than jokes or complaints. Think about the last time you saw someone post a photo of their Subway sandwich on social media with genuine enthusiasm. You cannot, can you? Because Subway has faded into irrelevance. And in the 2000s and early 2010s, Subway was everywhere in the culture. The $5 foot-long jingle was inescapable. Jared was a household name. Eat Fresh was a recognizable slogan. Subway was part of the conversation. Now it is not. The brand has disappeared from the cultural landscape. It still exists physically. There are still thousands of stores. But culturally, it is a ghost. Look at social media. Brands live or die by their social media presence now. People post about the restaurants they love. They share photos. They write reviews. They engage. Subway's social media is a wasteland. The official accounts post promotional content that gets minimal engagement. Customers rarely post about Subway unless it is to complain or to mock. The brand has no cultural currency, no cool factor, no aspirational quality. It is just there, ignored. Compare that to competitors. Chipotle has a massive social media presence. People post their burrito bowls. They argue about guacamole. They participate in promotional campaigns. Chick-fil-A inspires genuine enthusiasm and loyalty. People wait in long lines. They rave about the customer service. They post about their favorite menu items. Even McDonald's, the ultimate corporate fast food chain, has cultural moments. The Travis Scott meal. The adult Happy Meals. Things that generate buzz and engagement. Subway has none of that. When Subway appears in the cultural conversation, it is as a punchline. Jokes about the bread being cake. Jokes about the tuna not being tuna. Jokes about the sad wilted lettuce and the bored teenager making your sandwich. The brand has become synonymous with low quality and mediocrity. And once that association solidifies, it is almost impossible to change. Part of the problem is that Subway has no identity anymore. It is not the cheap option. Dollar menus at other chains are more affordable. It is not the healthy option. Everyone knows the Eat Fresh claim is nonsense. It is not the fast option. Service is often slow. It is not the quality option. The food is processed and forgettable. It is not the convenient option. There are delivery apps that bring better food to your door. Subway occupies no niche. It has no reason to exist beyond inertia. The younger generation does not care about Subway at all. Gen Z did not grow up with Subway as a special treat or a regular routine. They grew up with options, food trucks, fast casual, delivery apps. They have no nostalgia for Subway, no loyalty, no reason to choose it over dozens of other options. And they do not. The average Subway customer is getting older. The brand is aging out, and there is nothing coming behind it. Subway tries to stay relevant. They launch promotions. They partner with delivery apps. They experiment with new menu items. Nothing works. The brand is fundamentally uncool. And you cannot fix uncool with promotions. You cannot fix uncool with partnerships. You cannot fix uncool with menu changes. Uncool is terminal. The stores themselves reflect this irrelevance. Walk into a Subway, and it feels stuck in time. The design is dated. The atmosphere is sterile. There is no energy, no personality, no reason to linger. People come in, get their sandwich, and leave as quickly as possible. Nobody hangs out at Subway. Nobody meets friends at Subway. It is transactional, functional, forgettable, and the franchise model makes it impossible to change. Even if corporate wanted to reinvent the brand, they would have to get thousands of independent franchisees to buy in. to renovate their stores, to change their operations, to invest in a new vision, and the franchisees have no money and no trust. They are not going to invest in another failed rebrand. They are just trying to survive. So Subway fades. It does not die. It just becomes less and less relevant. Fewer customers, fewer stores, fewer cultural mentions. Until one day people will drive past a closed Subway and barely remember what it used to be. A green and yellow sign from another era. A relic of a time when fast food meant something different. When Eat Fresh sounded like a promise instead of a lie. When Subway was everywhere and mattered to someone. That day is coming. Maybe it is already here. In 2023, the DeLuca family tries to sell Subway. They hire investment bankers. They court buyers. They ask for $10 billion. Nobody bites. The valuation is inflated. The brand is damaged. The franchise model is toxic. Potential buyers see the lawsuits, the bad press, the shrinking footprint. They walk away. Subway is not worth what the family thinks it is worth. And the attempted sale exposes just how far the company has fallen. What was once an empire is now a liability. And nobody wants to buy it. The sale process begins quietly in 2021. The DeLuca family hires J.P. Morgan to explore strategic options. That is investment bankers speak for we want to sell, but we are not saying it publicly yet. Word leaks anyway. The restaurant industry is small. People talk. And suddenly, everyone knows Subway is on the block. The family sets an asking price of $10 billion. The number is based on historical valuations, on the size of the network, on the brand recognition. On paper, it sounds reasonable. Subway is still the largest restaurant chain in the world by location count. The name is known globally. The infrastructure is massive. $10 billion seems like a fair price for all of that. Except nobody is buying. The investment bankers reach out to private equity firms, to rival restaurant chains, to international conglomerates. They pitch the opportunity. They present the financials. They highlight the global footprint. And the potential buyers do their due diligence and walk away. Every single one. The problems are obvious once you look closely. The brand is in decline. Sales have been falling for years. Store closures are accelerating. Customer perception is terrible. The lawsuits from franchisees are mounting. The operational model is outdated. The franchise system is generating ill will and bad press. The food quality is questionable. The competition is fierce. And the family ownership structure makes governance complicated. Private equity firms look at the numbers and see a turnaround situation that would require billions in additional investment. New store designs, menu innovation, marketing campaigns, franchisee buyouts or support, technology upgrades. And even with all that investment, there is no guarantee of success. The brand damage might be too deep. The competition might be too entrenched. The risk is enormous, and the potential return is uncertain. Restaurant chains look at Subway and see a competitor that is failing for good reasons. Why would McDonald's or Burger King or Yum Brands want to buy a declining sandwich chain with a toxic franchise model? They have their own brands to manage. Acquiring Subway would be inheriting thousands of problems with no clear solution. International buyers consider the opportunity and reach the same conclusion. Subway's international presence is strong in some markets, but the core U.S. business is the problem. And the U.S. business is too big to ignore. You cannot buy Subway and just focus on international growth. The domestic struggles would drag down the entire enterprise. The valuation gets adjusted. Maybe not $10 billion. Maybe $8 billion. Still no buyers. Maybe $6 billion. The bankers keep lowering the price, keep reaching out to new potential acquirers. And the answer keeps coming back, no. Not at any price that makes sense for the family. The process drags on for 2 years. Each rejection is embarrassing. Each lower valuation is a blow to the family's expectations. Fred DeLuca built this company into something worth billions. His heirs cannot even give it away at a reasonable price. The contrast is stark and sad. By 2023, the sale process is essentially dead. A few buyers are still circling, but they are vultures looking for a distressed asset they can buy for pennies on the dollar. The family is not desperate enough yet to accept those offers, so Subway stays in limbo. Not sold, not fixed, just slowly deteriorating. The failed sale is symbolic. It proves what franchisees have been saying for years. Subway is broken. The emperor has no clothes. The brand that once seemed invincible is now worth a fraction of what it should be, and the market knows it. The attempted sale was supposed to be an exit strategy for the family, a way to cash out and move on. Instead, it became a public demonstration of failure, a confirmation that Subway's best days are long behind it. The franchisees watch all of this with a mixture of anger and vindication. They have been telling corporate for years that the system is broken, that the brand is dying, that changes are needed. Corporate ignored them. Corporate prioritized short-term fees over long-term health. And now the consequences are undeniable. Nobody wants to buy Subway because everyone can see what the franchisees have been living. The decline is real. The problems are unfixable, and the value has evaporated. The family is stuck. They cannot sell at a price they find acceptable. They cannot run the company effectively. They cannot agree on a strategy. So they just sit on it, collecting what fees and royalties still come in, watching the store count shrink, waiting for something to change. But nothing changes. The decline continues. And the empire Fred DeLuca built slowly crumbles while his heirs argue over the scraps. The legal battles are mounting. Class action lawsuits, individual complaints, allegations of fraud, of misrepresentation, of unfair business practices. Franchisees are fighting back. Some are winning small settlements. Most are getting crushed by Subway's legal team. But the lawsuits keep coming. Because the anger is real. The harm is real. And people are done staying silent. The courts are slow. The outcomes are uncertain. But the lawsuits represent something important. A refusal to accept the system as it is. A demand for accountability. A fight for dignity. It is 2017. A group of franchisees in California files a class action lawsuit alleging that Subway engaged in deceptive business practices. The complaint is specific. Subway claimed in their franchise disclosure documents that the average franchisee earns a certain amount of revenue. The franchisees claimed those numbers were inflated, that they did not account for costs, that they were designed to mislead potential buyers into thinking the franchise was more profitable than it actually was. The lawsuit includes hundreds of plaintiffs, franchisees from across California who all tell similar stories. They invested their savings based on Subway's promises. They worked brutal hours. They followed the system exactly as instructed, and they still lost money. They claimed Subway knew the numbers were misleading. They claimed Subway deliberately painted a rosier picture than reality to sell more franchises. Subway fights the lawsuit aggressively. Their legal team files motions to dismiss. They argue that the franchise disclosure documents were accurate. They argue that franchisees are independent business owners responsible for their own success or failure. They argue that business is inherently risky and that some franchisees failing does not mean Subway did anything wrong. The case drags on for years. Discovery produces thousands of pages of documents. Depositions are taken. Expert witnesses are hired. Both sides spend millions on legal fees. And in the end, the case is settled. The terms are confidential. Subway admits no wrongdoing. The franchisees get a small payout, a fraction of what they lost. And life goes on. But that lawsuit is just one of many. In Wisconsin, franchisees sue over encroachment, claiming Subway deliberately opened new stores too close to existing ones to generate franchise fees at the expense of existing operators. In New York, franchisees sue over supplier pricing, claiming the kickback system is fraudulent. In Texas, franchisees sue over the $5 foot-long promotion, claiming Subway forced them to sell at a loss. Each lawsuit tells the same basic story. Subway prioritized corporate profits over franchisee success. Subway misled people about the true costs and risks. Subway used its market power and contractual control to exploit the people doing the actual work. The details vary, but the pattern is consistent. And Subway's response is always the same: deny, delay, bury the plaintiffs in legal motions, force them into arbitration where the proceedings are private and the outcomes favor corporations, settle when necessary, but admit nothing, use the franchise agreements to silence criticism and prevent collective action. Most franchisees cannot afford to sue. The legal fees are too high. The emotional toll is too great. The risk of losing and having to pay Subway's legal costs is too terrifying. So they suffer in silence. But a few fight back. A few are willing to risk everything to hold Subway accountable. There is a franchisee in Florida who spent 6 years and $100,000 in legal fees fighting Subway over a contract dispute. He loses. He is ordered to pay Subway's legal fees on top of his own. He declares bankruptcy. But he does not regret it. He wanted people to know the truth. He wanted the system exposed. And even though he lost in court, he considers the fight worth it. There is a group of franchisees in the Midwest who organize a letter-writing campaign to state regulators, asking them to investigate Subway's franchise practices. The regulators decline to act, but the effort brings franchisees together, helps them realize they are not alone, creates a sense of community among people who have been isolated and gaslit by corporate. The lawsuits are not just about money. They are about dignity, about refusing to be victimized silently, about demanding that Subway be held to account for the harm they have caused. And even when the lawsuits fail in court, they succeed in other ways. They generate press coverage. They create public records. They validate the experiences of franchisees who have been told their failures are their own fault. The legal system is not designed to help franchisees. The contracts are too one-sided. The arbitration clauses are too restrictive. The corporate legal teams are too well-funded. But franchisees keep filing lawsuits anyway, because the alternative is to accept the injustice, to let Subway continue exploiting people without consequences. And some people cannot do that. Some people would rather fight and lose than stay silent and complicit. By 2023, there are dozens of active lawsuits against Subway. Some are class actions. Some are individual complaints. Some are in federal court. Some are in state court. Some are in arbitration. The claims vary, but the underlying story is the same. Subway built a franchise system designed to enrich corporate at the expense of franchisees. And people are fighting back. The outcomes are uncertain. The odds are long. But the fight continues because it has to. Because silence is surrender. And some people refuse to surrender. It is quiet now in the strip mall. The Subway sign still glows green and yellow against the evening sky. But the light feels dimmer somehow, less certain. Inside, someone is closing up for the night, wiping down counters, restocking for tomorrow, going through motions that have been repeated in thousands of stores for decades. The routine continues, but the promise is gone. You think about Fred DeLuca at 17, standing in that first shop in Bridgeport with $1,000 and an idea. You think about the franchisees who believed in that idea. The immigrants who invested everything, the families who worked themselves into exhaustion, the workers who assembled sandwiches for minimum wage, the customers who trusted the Eat Fresh promise, all of them connected by a green and yellow sign and a system that was designed to fail them. Subway did not have to become this. The sandwich was fine. The concept was sound. A simple, affordable meal served quickly. There was dignity in that. There was value in that. But somewhere along the way, the mission changed. It stopped being about serving people and started being about extracting from them. It stopped being about building something sustainable and started being about growing at any cost. And the cost, it turns out, was everything. The franchisees paid with their savings, their health, their futures. The workers paid with their time and their labor for wages that barely covered rent. The customers paid with their trust and got back sandwiches that were never as fresh as promised. And the people at the top, the ones who designed the system and profited from it, they paid nothing. They collected their fees. They built their fortunes. And when the system started collapsing, they fought over the scraps, while everyone else suffered. This is not just a story about Subway. This is a story about what happens when the promise of opportunity becomes a mechanism for exploitation. When the American dream gets weaponized against the people who believe in it most. When systems are designed not to lift people up, but to extract value from them as efficiently as possible. Subway is the biggest example, but it is not the only one. And until something fundamental changes, it will not be the last. There is a Subway near you right now. Maybe it is thriving. Maybe it is struggling. Maybe it is already closed with a for lease sign in the window. Whichever it is, it represents someone's dream. Someone who believed they could build something. Someone who worked harder than they have ever worked. Someone who trusted a corporation that did not deserve that trust. Some of those people made it. A few. The ones who got in early, who got lucky with location, who got out before the model collapsed. But most did not. Most are still working brutal hours for no profit. Most are trapped in contracts they cannot escape. Most are watching their dreams die slowly while corporate collects its fees and pretends everything is fine. The green and yellow signs will probably be around for a while longer. Subway is not dead, just dying, slowly, quietly, fading into irrelevance one closed store at a time. And when it is finally gone, when the last Subway closes and the last sign comes down, we should remember what it was. Not the marketing, not the commercials, not the promises, but the reality. A franchise system that enriched a few people by exploiting thousands. A brand built on a lie that collapsed when the truth became undeniable. A dream that turned into a nightmare for almost everyone who believed in it. If you got something from this tonight, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button. If you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe. And if you have your own Subway story, if you worked there or owned a franchise or just remember when the $5 footlong felt like a good deal, leave a comment. I read them. And your experiences matter. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And remember, whether you are settling in for the night or just starting your day, you are part of something. This community, these stories, this strange little corner of the internet where we talk about the things we remember and the things we have lost. The strip mall is dark now. The Subway sign has been turned off for the night. Tomorrow it will glow again. Someone will make sandwiches. Someone will buy them. The routine will continue. But the promise is gone, and it is not coming back. It is 2024 now. The bread is baking. The meat is sliced. The vegetables are sitting in their bins. And nothing is fresh. Nothing was ever fresh. That was always the lie. And now you know. Sleep well.